Hi, I'm Jess, and welcome to Spooky Movie Club. Hi, everyone. Welcome back to the Spooky Movie Club. Grab your popcorn, grab your coffee, grab your tea, whatever you need, whatever your beverage of choice is, because this is the last movie of Vampire Month that we will be discussing. We'll be discussing Nosferatu. I don't, it's be somewhere here because we don't have it, the physical version of it. I just want to say that I think we did a very good job on Vampire Month. I think we mixed it up a lot. We had 80s, we had 90s, we had modern, and then we did the silent film. So I'm going to go and read the description from Google, but if you want to skip ahead to the discussion or next week's spooky movie, I'm going to leave timestamps below. Okay, so we're going to read the description from Google. Nosferatu, 1922, horror silent film. Okay. In this highly influential silent horror film, the mysterious Count Orlok summons Thomas Hutter to his remote Transylvanian castle in the mountains. The eerie Orlok seeks to buy a house near Hutter and his wife, Ellen. After Orlok reveals his vampire nature, Hutter struggles to escape the castle, knowing that Ellen is in grave danger. Meanwhile, Orlok's servant, Knock, prepares for his master to arrive at his new home. Now, there were several places to watch this film. We chose to watch it on Amazon. You could have watched it on Tubi, although that had ads. I found that out a little too late. But this is slightly confusing because on the version we watched, they had changed all the names to Bram Stoker's Dracula names. Like it was Jonathan, it was Dracula, it was Nina. And at first I was like, I didn't know this was based off that book. But in the original, I guess Nosferatu was unofficially based off Bram Stoker's Dracula, and that's why that's why he changed the names. But I think for me, because it had the original names of Bram Stoker's Dracula, kind of made it easier for me to follow the story of the film. But yeah, we're gonna get into my thoughts. Okay, so let's get into my thoughts for Nosferatu. Like I said, I didn't know this was based off Bram Stoker's Dracula. I think there may be several versions out there because the Amazon version we watched had Dracula, Jonathan, Nina, Renfield. But when I was watching there's a different version on YouTube, like it was sepia toned instead of like black and white, and I think that had Count Orlok and everything on there. So there must be different versions out there floating around. But I thought that it was easier for me to follow because I've seen other versions of Bram Stoker's Dracula. I think that may be important to kind of know the characters because with the silent film, it's our first silent film for Spooky Movie Club, and it was kind of like, what's happening? Who's that character? And if I didn't have a general idea of Bram Stoker's Dracula, I think it would have been harder for me to follow. I do have to say that, we'll call him Count Orlok. He must be the creepiest vampire design I have seen out of all the films we have watched. I think this is what a vampire should look like. Yes, we don't want a sexy vampire. You know, those are all good and fun, but like Count Orlok is creepy. He's got long fingernails and weird like rat teeth and a bald head and pointy ears. Almost looks like a bat. To me, that is what a vampire should honestly, truly look like. So I was really down with his creature design. Also, it fascinated me all that they could accomplish in a 1920s film. Just like, it's crazy for the time. Like, obviously, it wasn't scary. It wasn't, because we're watching it from a different time. But I can see for the time, if you were, like, sitting down in a movie theater watching this silent film, being terrified, and I was astounded by all they could accomplish in the 1920s. All they could accomplish without sound, except for music. First of all, now that we're talking about music, let's talk the music. So bizarre. The music was so bizarre. There's a scene where Jonathan is getting into bed at the inn before he visits the vampire, and this music is like Keyboard Cat. It's just like more organ. Not more cowbell, more organ. Just like constantly, it was anxiety inducing. I'm like, will this ever end? will this music ever end? And then in scenes where you wouldn't expect it to slow down, the music slows down. The music was a bizarre kind of thing. So yeah, we watched the Amazon version. So I don't know if the YouTube version or the Tubi version had different music, but the version on Amazon was just like, the music was so bizarre. And I also have to say, the Amazon version, our like screens were cut off. Like, as if when they were running the film, like they made the titles of the film, it ran through crooked and half of the stuff was cut off. And when I was looking at the YouTube version that, you know, my friend Taco was talking about, everything was straight in a line. So I guess if I'm going to recommend a version to watch the YouTube one that's on YouTube. I think that's the best one to watch out of all the ones that I've come across. I would like to see someone rescore Nosferatu. I think that would be interesting. Like, don't try to remake Nosferatu. Like, just try to, like, make the music better. I loved the use of shadows. It is a black and white film, and it does give you creepy, eerie vibes, but their use of shadows to really, you know, elevate that creepy, spooky vibe was just amazing. I mean, that famous scene of where Nina is in her room and she's scared. She's like, oh my God. And then you see the shadow of Count Orlok. He's coming up the stairs. You don't see him. You just see his creepy shadow with his long, creepy fingernails. That is just, I mean, it's an iconic shot as you see it everywhere. It's still very impactful now. Like, that was in 1920s. We're in 20. This movie is almost 100 years old. Okay? Almost a century. This movie was made a century ago. That's weird to think about. Another thing I kind of wish there was more of, the vampire. More Count Orlok. You see him in the beginning. When he's on the ship, you rarely see him. And then you like kind of see him at the end. I wanted more vampire. I wanted, you know, just a little bit more. Just a little bit more Count Orlok. Just a tad more. There is a 1970s remake, Nosferatu the Vampire. I heard that's very good, so I don't know if that compares, but hopefully there's more vampire in that one. That one I'll have to give a watch one of these days. It's also on Amazon. So my final thoughts on Nosferatu. It is a classic for a reason. I think if you haven't seen it, it is a must-watch. No matter if you're a fan of horror or not, just to see what they could accomplish 100 years ago. I would definitely, again, recommend watching the YouTube version, so I'm going to link that below in the description box. But yeah, I think that this is one, I don't know if I'd watch it again, but I think that it is definitely a worthwhile watch if you haven't seen it yet. All right, it's time to start February's Community Choice movies. It's going to be the first week of that. And what we did is we all suggested movies in the Discord and we voted on them. And what I did was I took the top 4 of those movies, the top 4 that had the most votes. And what I'm going to do is we're going to watch the ones with the least amount of votes to the most out of those 4. So the movie we are going to watch this week, the first week of February, is one that I've seen before, haven't seen in a long time, but I remember it always being on in my house for some reason. Like whenever it was on, either my father would put it on or my mother would put it on. It is a classic, and this was recommended by Dave. And that is Poltergeist, which I'm super excited to watch again because I haven't seen it in such a long time. And I did watch the Shudder documentary series, Cursed Films. Anyway, Poltergeist was one of them, which wasn't really cursed, it was more sad. But it was still a good portion of the documentary. So if you have Shudder and you haven't seen that yet, I definitely go watch that. But I'm excited to watch Poltergeist again this week. We're going to watch it this week. Also this month, but this week. Along with the spooky movie, we also voted on the spooky game that we were playing for February. And the majority voted for Resident Evil 2, the remake. So we'll be playing that during February. I'll be playing as Claire this time because I played it previously and I played as Leon. So it's not my first time playing, but my first time playing as Claire. So that should be a little different run through to see her side of the story, which I'm excited about. So yeah, I think that wraps it up for this week's Spooky Movie Club. If you want to join us for the Poltergeist viewing party, we're going to do that on Discord on Wednesday, 6:30 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. And then we'll do the live discussion and start Resident Evil 2 on Saturday at 5:30 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. If you can't make any of those, don't worry, because I'll be back here on Sunday with the review. Bye!